Hello, it's Jimmy here at O'Reilly's, and I have here that I'm looking at a Mercedes Vito. Now this Vito is fitted with a 1.6 Renault engine from the Renault Trafic, or also known as the Vauxhall Vivaro. So if you look here, you can see it's got that Renault engine. It's got an upstream pressure pipe. Now I have had a quick look over this van already, and I'll take you through what we found and how I'm going to fix it. So again, this guy's come down from a place called Nuneaton, which is in Coventry or Leicestershire area, and he tried 2 DPF specialists up there, and they said they weren't really interested in looking at it. And he had another guy that he was trying to book him up, but he said, oh yeah, not right now, if you call me back next week and I'll see what I can do. But sort of got the drift that they weren't interested in doing it, and his normal mechanics told him to go find someone like myself, basically, who knows what they're doing with it, and get it sorted there. So we're going to get inside and have a look. Okay, so we have these 2 fault codes, P246B09, P24663-92, DPF soot accumulation, and the conditions are not met for the vehicle to do its own regeneration. Now if we go to data stream, we're going to find some of the items that I need to show you. So here we'll click diesel particulate filter, select all of these. I'm going to start the engine up, and some keys on the left side of these. Now if we graph that, so you can see that that graph is coming across, it's taking too long to come down. That should go up and down. So the upstream pressure sensor is blocked. On these they call it an exhaust back pressure sensor, or a turbo back pressure sensor. It basically reads the turbo pressure from the manifold. Now if we come down here, we have 9 millibars of pressure, which is not too high. Let's hold it up at what's the max revs? Just under 3000 RPM. So ideally that'll like to be around sort of 6. We've got 95 grams of soot calculated in the DPF, which is very high. The DPF pressure is not stupidly high, but a little bit out of range for these. This engine with this DPF doesn't like to be above 6 millibars or 6 HPA, if I can change that. Okay, so the conditions not met for the DPF would be, if we come back here to the SAM unit, sensor coolant level, the fluid level is too low. So there is not actually a fault with the coolant level. So if we go into this, what actually happened was, a few weeks ago the coolant was actually low. The customer has topped it back up, but it's obviously logged as a fault. So what we'll do to confirm that is we'll try and clear the code, and if the fault comes back, it might need a coolant level sensor. But as far as I'm aware, the customer said it was low on fluid and he has topped it up, so that would have been the reason why the DPF wouldn't regenerate, and it's now logged as fault. Okay, so there isn't anything actually in there that I can see the coolant level, but doesn't show you anything in there. So what I'm going to do now is just try and clear the coolant level sensor fault. Okay, so on these vans now, well, most cars, they're going to have conditions that the DPF needs to meet, that before the ECU will tell the engine to regenerate the DPF. So many of those conditions could be that the engine coolant temperature has reached above sort of 80 degrees. Next one is that there's no faults logged in the engine ECU. Now of course, if you've got something like that was shown on here, engine coolant level is too low and it's logged as a fault, I'm going to assume that that's going to stop the DPF regenerating. Any fault in the engine system is going to stop that happening. So now I'm going to go back in and just recheck if the coolant level fault has disappeared, or if it's come back, then we obviously need a coolant level sensor. It's taking a bit of time there, so I don't know what's going on. Maybe because I had the key off, it's confused the ECU a bit. Read the fault code. Okay, so just as I expected, obviously it did have low. If it didn't have low coolant and you had this fault logged up, then there obviously would be an issue with the coolant sensor, coolant level sensor. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the work. So I'm just going to remove the O2 sensor. We're going to get our DPF cleaning fluid in there, and we're going to open up this upstream pressure pipe here. We're going to get some cleaning fluid in that to soften it up, and a drill with some cable. I use a 2mm cable to get down there, or a 1.5mm cable. I get asked that question a lot. I did have a lot of bunches of cable there in the past, and I got asked what sort of size cable it was, and I completely forgot what it was, but now I've ordered some more. I know I've got two different size cables. One is 1.5mm, one is 2mm cable that I use to get down there and clear out the hardened up soot. It's a small little, the pipe itself is about 2mm thick, or maybe 3mm internal, so that needs to be cleared out. It gets blocked up quite easily if obviously it's quite small. Just pulling that down. I'm going to pull that out a little bit so we can have a look at what's coming on the end of the cable. That's where it goes down. Sorry, let me try and get that focused. Doesn't want to focus into the. You see there's carbon on the tip of that, so it's I think that's a 2mm cable. Get it down there. That is, we've got a piece of extension on there just to get it in. Okay, so with a bit of lube, a bit of DPF cleaner, we have now got flow from that. So we've got a nice flow of pressure coming out of that. So, like I said, this little small pipe, I've showed it in loads of videos before. It gets blocked up solid. I could have showed you a pressure gauge actually. It holds pressure, so if you try to put pressure down it doesn't go down. And we'll show you now in a minute on the live data. Once this is reconnected, you can see the chart that we showed earlier moving up and down. Okay, so just temporarily put those back together there. Okay, so we have the chart back on. Now this scan tool that I'm using here again is the Launch Euro Tab 3. If we go up and down, you see the difference in that chart now? Got up, down, nice perfect flow chart, and it doesn't take 10 or 15 seconds to slowly, gradually sort of come across the screen and gradually come down. Got instant response from the sensor. So this issue here, it can cause your DPF to block up, because if the sensor realizes that it's not getting the readings that it likes, your conditions again will not be correct. There's many reasons, like I said, the conditions can't be correct. And now we have this working. The symptoms again for this can also be intermittent power loss or the engine pulsing. Two reasons the engine can pulse on these is loose injector connectors or the upstream pipe here not given the correct reading for the turbo pressure, so the engine doesn't know how much pressure is going in and how it needs to adjust the fuel. So I didn't show you the dash lights either. I should have showed that at the start. We've got an engine light on, exhaust filter, high engine speeds, it's saying basically. That doesn't make any difference. You can do all the high engine speeds you like, it's not going to get rid of this fault. He's obviously tried that. What the customer has told me now as well, the service overdue light was on when he bought the van 2 years ago. So 2 years ago he bought the van and it said service was overdue. These vans, I think, need a service every 25,000 miles. They should be serviced in less than 10, but they have a service interval of 25,000, which is mad. And it was overdue, that service, when he bought it, and he still has not serviced it. So it's done maybe 50,000 miles without having a service. And that's all well and good. You will get away with that, but you'll probably find once your vehicle reaches sort of 80 to 100,000 miles, it's now end of life and it's finished. Whereas if you service your car less than 10,000 miles, I've serviced my van sort of 8,000 miles, maybe 10, could be 6, but I'll service it maybe once a year. But if I go, I'm only doing sort of 6 to 8,000 miles a year at the moment. I used to do a lot more than that because I used to travel all over the country. I just don't have the time for the travel anymore, so kind of get people to come here and meet me. And due to that, I do a lot less mileage, but still the van gets a service every sort of 8,000 miles. My van is on 270,000 miles. Everything's original. It's never had any repairs done to the engine. And that's all due to the engine getting the correct lubricant that it needs. Now here we have Johnny getting the DPF clean done in through the oxygen sensor. Slow down, we get paid by the hour. Johnny's a big fan of these stickers. So we just have a little look in the back of our van here, one of the vans anyway. So this is the fluid, of course, that we're using. Launch UK DPF cleaner fluid. That's hooked up to the compressor over there, and we've got a long tube running out to the van. Okay, so I'm going to do some resets on this, which is the service resets for the air filter, oil. We are going to service this van as well, so we're going to do all of that now before we service it, just so I can get everything in working order. So we can see there, service is overdue by how many miles was that? Oh, it's not coming up again. Hang on a minute. Do an ignition cycle, and we should get. Well, it's overdue by a fair amount. Okay, so we're going to reset that. It's 21,000 miles overdue, or kilometers. Right. Read the fault code. Soot content's too high and the preconditions are not fulfilled. I don't think we're going to get this to clear without doing a reset of the DPF. I know these Mercedes don't like this sort of just clearing the fault. So we'll probably find that these are still here because there you go. Because the soot grams are too high. So we need to now, the only way to get this reset is to the teach-in process of the particle filter. I'm going to press that one. F3. So that's okay. Now if we go back, we should be able to clear the fault code. Because what that is where the soot grams is at 95, it's way too high for it to reset the fault code. It's not safe to reset the fault code unless you have cleaned it like I've done. If you reset it without cleaning it, it obviously risks melting the DPF once you've taken it on a test drive. So now we'll look back at the data stream. We'll go back to the exhaust system. We'll select all of those. Now the soot should be back to 0, and we'll have a look at our pressure once we've got the engine running. Okay, we start up the engine. We've still got that exhaust filter light on there, but we haven't got our engine management lights on anymore. Now we'll just have a look at the live data while we're holding some revs up. Hold it up to sort of 3000 RPM. And you can see there we're smoking. And again, we're just going to hold the revs now steady for sort of 5 or 10 minutes until all of the smoke has cleared away. So that's now going to dissolve all of that soot. The fluid just helps it burn off at a low temperature. Normally you'd need sort of 600 degrees to do that, but this fluid helps it clean out at sort of 100 degrees. Okay, we're going to let that do its job. Got Johnny holding the revs there for a minute. So a lot of this work is sort of pretty straightforward for me if you've done it a lot, but it's very important not only to do the work, but to do it in the right order, the right steps. So you see the way I've done the resets only after I've cleaned it, and reset the service before we try to clear the fault codes, and then once the DPF has been cleaned, you reset the DPF values, then you try to clear the fault codes. If you do it in the wrong order, none of these things will work. Now that's nearly finished, we're going to get it up on the ramps to do the service, get the oil dropped out and change the oil on it. So we can actually see here now that the vehicle itself has decided to start doing its own regen, because it's come up to 620 degrees. Even though the vehicle's not moving, we're just parked up. We did take it obviously on a little test drive around. And that's nice to know that the vehicle's now able to do its own regen. And we're going to change the oil once this is finished. So it's very important to understand there that I'm not doing a forced regen. We've taken the vehicle around the block a little bit there, and it has started to do its own regen. Now we're just waiting for maybe 2-3 minutes and this should be finished. We'll see the temperature sort of drop back down again. And here we can see the temperature start to come down now, 585, 584. Now here you can see these numbers of the soot, they will adjust themselves so they can come up and then they'll even back down a little bit. Okay, I've decided just to take it on another test drive before we do the oil change, just to make sure it's not trying to regenerate again and that all of the numbers are looking okay. We're not getting any warnings back on the dashboard. And mainly just to get it to finish doing the regen that it was doing. I'd rather just take it on a drive and get it to let it to finish that, rather than sitting stationary with the engine and the DPF getting hot. So we're just going to get it back on the ramps now, and we will get the oil change done. Okay, so the end result there is we have 5 millibars of pressure on the DPF, 1.6 grams of soot in the calculations. Engine lights gone, all of the warnings have gone. We've test drived it to confirm all of that. Okay, and we'll now go back and check the fault codes, which are all now clear, which is exactly what I was expecting. So that's it, looks like we're just about finished. Okay, now Johnny's going to finish off the oil service, which means he has to lie on the wet ground. It's nice and rainy, and we will see you on the next video. See you in the next video.